Exactly, all right.
Did you just take a picture of me and I had my head down?
No, I didn't take a picture. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Listen, we're going to open up March 28th council meeting with a silent meditation or prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Can you shut that door, please? For a second? Just for a second, so. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First of all, Mr. Pizzo, is there any changes to the agenda this evening that we need to know about?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
Item number 6 on this evening's agenda, Johnson Development, which was continued from an earlier meeting. The township received correspondence from the attorney representing the applicant on Friday, asking that the hearing for this evening be tabled. They're continuing to work through some issues on the plan as they pertain to Renaissance Boulevard. They're asking that the application be tabled to the next council meeting on May 9. So it's actually not the next council meeting, but to the council meeting of May 9. And they've given the township the necessary extension of time under the municipality's planning code for the consideration of the plan.
Okay, and that was number 6, Johnson Development Associates on State Road. Do we have a motion to table?
So moved.
Okay, as expressed for May 9th. And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of tabling Johnson's to May 9th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any against? Okay, so that's tabled to May 9th. Is there anything else, Mr. Pizzo?
That's the only change of which I'm aware.
Okay. And next is the public comment reference to agenda items, but we will have public comment at the end, and at each time we have an agenda item that someone could address. Our next agenda item is number 3, presentation awards. We have our Director of Public Safety, Bill McVeigh. It's okay to call you Bill, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't have to call you William or anything, right?
Bill's fine.
Okay, all right, okay. Okay, so Mr. Bill McVeigh, our Director of Public Safety.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
First, I'd like to start off by thanking the mayor, thanking council, and thanking everyone that's sitting up here and everyone here. You're going to hear tonight is about a team in Bensalem. We hear the mayor say teams win all the time. And tonight's just not about police. It's about the police. It's about our citizens, our businesses, how everyone comes together to keep Bensalem safe. And I'd also like to just give Lieutenant Keith Christie's here a quick congratulations on his 10 weeks at the National Academy FBI training. He's the first to be a graduate in 22 years. So thank you for the support you give us to send Keith or something like that.
Good job.
Our first award tonight is for Brian Guay, one of our township mechanics. If you can come up, please. On Saturday, January 9th, 2021, a traffic stop was conducted by Corporal Brian Cowden. The driver of the vehicle was identified as Jeremiah Garcia from Maryland, and he was the target of a long-term narcotics investigation. Garcia was driving a 2002 Chevy Trailblazer with Florida registration. During the traffic stop, a police canine indicated on the presence of an illegal substance. The vehicle was seized and a search warrant was obtained. Bensalem Township Police Mechanic Brian Guay was called to assist investigators. With the assistance of Brian Guay, a hidden compartment was located underneath the rear passenger seats. The trap contained 8 kilos, which is 15 pounds of methamphetamine, with a street value of $1.6 million. Garcia was charged with possession with intent to deliver a controlled substance. He was arraigned and sent to Bucks County Correctional Facility in lieu of $1.5 million. Due to your mechanical experience and expertise, a hidden compartment was located and accessed, and 8 kilos of methamphetamine were seized. For your continuous and willing partnership, you are hereby recognized by the Bensalem Township Police Department and Bensalem Township. Thank you very much. mayor and council president will also be recognizing you, Brian.
Just real quick, we'll give every one of the recipients tonight honor from council and myself for the great work. Brian, I know you for a long time, longer than I've been here, actually. So you do great work at our public works, and what a phenomenal job you've done there. So, Brian, we'll present this to you.
Okay, in recognition of participation in providing unsustained and valuable services to the Bensalem Police Department. Congratulations, Brian.
Next up on the agenda will be Pat Anthony Ponticelli, one of our local paramedics, and civilian Robert Holt. Please come up. On December 4th, 2021, at approximately 12:08 hours, a female was forcibly robbed of her purse inside Wawa, located at 3328 Bristol Road. The female began to struggle with the suspect when Pat Anthony Ponticelli, an off-duty paramedic, and a citizen named Robert Holt intervened in an attempt to assist the victim. Ponticelli and Holt took the suspect to the ground in an effort to detain him for police who had been called to the scene. During the struggle, while on the ground, paramedic Ponticelli was bitten in the hand by the suspect, which caused a laceration. Despite his injury, paramedic Ponticelli and Mr. Holt were able to hold the suspect even though he was injured and even though the suspect continued to resist for several minutes. Bensalem police arrived on scene within minutes and took the suspect into custody. The suspect was subsequently charged with robbery, assault, disorderly conduct, and narcotics offenses. It should be mentioned that while these two gentlemen took down this robber in the Wawa, the Ponticelli family was in the parking lot waiting to do Christmas activities. They're here tonight, I believe, as well. Besides all that, you stepped into action. They had no idea what was going on inside the Wawa. For your selfless and heroic actions in detaining a violent robbery suspect and assisting a citizen victim, you are hereby recognized by Bensalem Township Police Department and Bensalem Township. Thank you very much. Corporal Robert Schwarting, can you come up, please? Corporal Schwarting has been a police officer with Bensalem Township Police Department since 2014. Corporal Schwarting is currently assigned to the patrol division with his canine partner, Bowie. Bob was also a field training officer and trained 3 new police officers in 2021. He's a very active police officer with PAL, and he continues to donate countless hours and time to the Bensalem Township community. In 2021, Bob demonstrated what an incredible asset he is to the Bensalem Township Police Department and the citizens of Bensalem Township. Through his proactive patrol measures, Bob and his canine partner Bowie confiscated 8 firearms on their own, numerous high-capacity magazines, and a large quantity of illegal narcotics. Last year alone, he received 8 official departmental commendations due to excellent police work. In 2021, Bob and Bowie were a formidable duo. K-9 Bowie was utilized 26 times in narcotics searches, resulting in the confiscation of 2.5 pounds of cocaine, a half pound of methamphetamine, and 1.2 pounds of marijuana and heroin. K-9 Bowie was also utilized for 16 patrol-related searches, 5 subjects were taken into custody, and numerous pieces of evidence were located during these, including 1 related to a homicide. Last November, Bob and Bowie participated in United States Police Canine Association dog trials. They obviously took number 1. In addition to all these accomplishments, Bob finished number 1 on the promotional test for corporal. He is now promoted. And most importantly, him and his wife, Liz, who can't be here tonight due to illness, had their 4th son during all this. For all your dedication, loyalty, vigilance, teamwork, and excelling in overall job performance throughout the year, you're hereby recognized by the Bensalem Township Police Department and the township as a whole as the 2021 Officer of the Year. Great job, Bob. Anyone here from Bensalem Beer and Soda tonight? I don't believe they showed. So that will conclude us. I would just like to thank the Deputy Director, Dave Richardson, for coming tonight, and also our former Deputy Director, Pat Ponticelli, whose son was one of the recipients of the award, obviously. So, Mayor, thank you very much, Council. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much.
You can tell.
Okay. Yeah.
Take a recess.
Okay.
Take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll be right back, all right? Give us 5 minutes.
Yeah. Top one?
Yep, let's keep going. Okay, we're back in session here. Next thing on the agenda is approval of council minutes for the meeting dated March 14th. Is there any changes anybody would like to address in reference to the minutes for the 14th? Seeing no one, is there a motion?
Put a motion accepted as presented for March 14 minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any against? Okay, so the minutes are accepted. Okay, next on the agenda is number 5, consideration of preliminary and final revised land development for Chick-Fil-A. Is there someone here that's handling that? There, we have an attorney.
Is Phil there?
They missed an opportunity. They should have been handing out chicken for the
We
whole
have,
town.
yeah, there you go.
That's good. All right, good evening. Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here tonight on behalf of Chick-fil-A. I also have Chris Riggle from Collier's. This is the Chick-fil-A property that's located in the Horizon Center. The property address is 3621 Horizon Boulevard. The tax parcel number is 2-001-18-26. It's an approximately 1 acre site. I believe council's aware, but there is an existing Chick-fil-A. Presently, it's next to the Starbucks inside the complex. We appeared in front of the zoning hearing board a little less than a year ago to receive a couple variances relating to this project, which essentially is the installation of canopies and then taking the 1 lane that's currently at the Chick-fil-A and expanding it so that it's a 2-lane drive-through concept. Because of the addition of the 2nd lane, we had to minorly reconfigure the parking layout at the present location. So even though we aren't losing any parking spaces, there is going to be the addition of parking to the rear of the site, which necessitated one of our variances and is one of the 3 waivers that we're requesting this evening. This is an existing site. I don't believe there's presently the same issues from a queuing and stacking situation that I think the township might be seeing, for example, at the Chick-fil-A on Street Road. But Chick-fil-A is trying to be proactive both in the township and in other locations throughout the county and really in southeastern Pennsylvania in improving the logistical operations to avoid excessive queuing and stacking. So this particular project, we're hopeful that the installation of the 2nd drive-through lane and then a 390 square foot kitchen addition, Chick-fil-A is described as putting a Ferrari engine into the building to be able to more expediently process food orders so that they can get customers in and out more quickly than they can presently. So the scope of the project in terms of the addition is relatively small. There is no added seating as a result of this, but we're optimistic that this is going to really make the operations on site more efficient. We did appear in front of the Planning Commission, it was last month, and received recommended approval. I know Chris has worked with Mr. Worcester's office to make sure that the plans are going to be in obviously a situation and that's acceptable to the township. We did resubmit back on the 9th of this month. Since we appeared in front of the Planning Commission, we did receive Bucks County Conservation District approval. We've updated the stormwater management. Everything in the review letter, both from T&M and TPD, is a will comply with the exception of 3 waivers. And just to very briefly hit on those waivers, and then certainly Chris can go through the plan design if the council would like that. There are waivers relating to a parking setback, that's 201-112H, and again, we did receive relief from this at the zoning hearing board, but it is also in the subdivision and land development ordinance, and that's because of the parking spaces that are on the rear of this site, which really backs onto nothing. It's all green space back there. We have a waiver that we're requesting.
Could you mention that again? I'm sorry, I
Yes.
was looking at this and I wasn't.
Sure.
Is it zoning ordinance C?
It's a duplicate actually in the zoning ordinance. We did receive a variance for this, but it's
Oh, okay,
also
that's all right.
stated in Saldo. So
Okay.
it's 201-112H in Saldo.
Okay,
That would be paragraph D18 in the T&M.
okay, but they have a variance already, okay.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Pizzo. That's D18. We have a waiver from D17 as well, which is 201, 111A. And Chris, maybe I'll have you jump in on this. That's the sidewalk installation. We discussed this at the Planning Commission. Because of the existing conditions on Horizon Boulevard and the way that's landscaped, it's really, unfortunately, very, very difficult for us to make a sidewalk connection from the existing bus stop into the site. And you can, Chris, touch on this.
Yeah, so along Horizon Boulevard, there's really not the space due to the existing conditions out there. The site sits probably 3 to 4 feet above grade out there, so there's just not enough room for sloping to put a flat sidewalk with ADA accessibility along Horizon Boulevard.
And we're agreeable to provide a fee in lieu with respect to the sidewalk installation at that location.
Okay.
You're saying the front of the Horizon Boulevard is 3 foot higher than your building? Is that
No,
what you just said?
the road.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. The road is 3 foot higher.
No,
the building and the
Parking.
parking lot, the road is 3 foot lower, it sort of slopes up.
here's the parking, here's the road.
And why would that cause a problem, having sidewalks? Go ahead.
There's no room to, you would need a retaining wall, basically the entire length of that. And in order to put a bus shelter out there, with all of the other infrastructure that's out there, there's a sign, there's a transformer, there is like electrical equipment out there. It would all just have to be relocated or, I guess, relocated somewhere else on the site where there's really not a lot of room out there on that site.
And no one walks that width of Horizon Boulevard, is that correct? Phil, I'm addressing this to you.
Sorry about that. Mr. Kisselback, yes, the answer is yes, there is not a lot of pedestrian traffic there. We've always tried to get some sidewalk along that stretch of road, but if you recall, we just did the same type of thing for the old Ruby Tuesdays, where we eliminated the sidewalk, the requirement for a sidewalk for fee in lieu of. So that whole side doesn't have any sidewalk.
The Ruby Tuesdays, where is this?
Yeah, that's the new building. They put the other kind of chicken place they're putting in there.
That's
The
the
Canes. Bertucci's, I'm
Bertucci's old
sorry, I'm
building,
sorry.
yeah.
Okay,
Bertucci's.
Bertucci's,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, there was a
Are there sidewalks on the other side of the street, Phil?
Vaughn
Are
Louis now, we used to.
there sidewalks on the other side?
On the other side,
McDonald's is? Yeah,
on the
McDonald's side.
McDonald's side.
Yeah.
So you're in agreement that would not be feasible to put sidewalks in there?
Right, without a significant amount of work, and then there'd only be one small stretch of sidewalk. So when we take a fee in lieu of, if we decide at some point to sidewalk the whole thing, then we could use it for that regard.
Are we taking into consideration all these events that you're talking about, if we were to put sidewalks in? Or are we just taking the square footage of the sidewalk and the curbs?
Oh, no, we're just putting in the sidewalk and the curbs. The fee in lieu of is for sidewalk and curbs only along the site frontage.
So my question is, which is not likely to happen, are we charging them only the cost of putting the sidewalks in with not all this additional work that you're saying has to be done? Because if we're putting the sidewalks in, this additional work is going to have to be done.
That's a good point, Mr. Kisselback. Historically, we've only gotten the fee for the cost of putting the sidewalk and the curb in. So that grading and that sort of thing was not a consideration. So perhaps at some point we should make it so, but we have not historically done that.
Well, I think now would be a good time to do it.
We could add that into the into their
I mean,
fee.
it should be the cost of installing the curbs and sidewalks, correct?
Correct.
Well,
If you had to take trees out because of that, and we had to do regrading, that would be cost of putting sidewalks in. And
Yeah,
in this
I-
case, it's a matter of,
I think the issue would, if they could put them in, they would. So if we have to do something, it would be a significant amount of work. So as an example, it would have to be a retaining walls, it would have to be pushing maybe some of the work out onto Horizon Boulevard.
We
don't
may
know.
never be able to put a sidewalk.
No, we never, and it was never, it should have been contemplated at the very beginning.
I think a
but-
combination of assessing them the cost of the curbs and sidewalks, the actual cost, and then putting in an agreement within the passing of this, I'm not saying ordinance of the subdivision, any of them, should be that if in the future we were to put curbs and sidewalks in, then they would be responsible for that additional fees in terms of land appropriation and whatever it would take to make it happen. So in other words, they'd only be charged the amount at this time, but I think you would be in agreement that the likelihood of us putting curbs and sidewalks in is very minimal, but if it happens in the future, then you would be responsible for that cost incurred. Does that make sense to you, Mr. McGinnis? Yes, it does, thank you.
Yeah. I think so. Just to reiterate, what you're trying to capture, Mr. Kisselback, is the holistic expense of the installation of sidewalks, if it were to come to pass, is not necessarily just the linear footage of the sidewalks themselves, but
Correct.
the cost associated if, and that's something we can work with Mr. Pizzo's office on in drafting adequate verbiage, that you're not requesting that Chick-fil-A post those funds now, but some agreement that within X number of years, if the township were to install sidewalks along Horizon, that Chick-fil-A would cooperate with the expenditure to make that installation possible. Is it
Correct.
accept-
That's pretty close.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that would be agreeable, yeah.
That's fair enough.
Isn't there a bus stop there already, or did that get taken away? You had said something about a
There
bus
is
stop
a,
not being.
there is a, there is a
I know it
bus
got
stop
hit
there.
at some point, so.
Yes, there is a bus stop.
And-
Was this taken into consideration when we allowed the project to go forward? Didn't we waive curbs and sidewalks back at that time? I mean, this is something that we should discuss because we're bringing it in now. We're going to charge them again for the land and then charge them again for things that we allowed to go in there in the first place. How is that fair? Do we have an answer to that?
No, we don't, but Mr. Farrell's office is looking into that with regard to the Bertucci's, and we would apply that if, or to give a credit if that in fact is the case. But we have no record of it as far as right now.
I understand, but now we're going to make them post money to move utilities and stuff if sidewalks go in later for something that was already approved as it is. How do we do that? How does that make sense when it's already approved for not having curbs and sidewalks, or sidewalks at least? There may be curbs somewhere by there, but there's no sidewalks. How can we turn around and go back at them now and say, well, now you're going to have to pay to move the utilities when we already approved to waive it?
No, I don't think there's going to be a posting. They agree that in the future, if they have to do that, that they'll pay.
But again,
Yeah, but they're going to pay in lieu of they're going to pay in lieu of sidewalks, which when they're doing this addition like this, we have a right to collect, so I don't.
Joe, I asked the question, did they already pay for it when we approved the thing?
Well, that's what
And
he's gonna
Phil
find
just-
out if
Phil just said, if so, then they won't have to pay that.
Yeah.
But now we're looking to go out after them to move utilities and stuff later on if the township decides to do it. I just don't understand how we can do that now. If we waived it before, how can we go at them again and make them pay more to move utilities that we approved in the original plan development?
I did, Mr. Poliri, I don't have a right or wrong answer to that. I mean, it was contemplated, sidewalks were never contemplated there. We're
Correct.
charging for a fee in lieu of sidewalk as it stands right now.
But did we do that when we originally did the development?
And I don't know if there was a fee in lieu of done there, or if we just approved it at that time, and that's what Mr. Farrell's office is
Right.
looking into right now. It would be a very, very extraordinary task to put in sidewalk in that location right now. And that's why the fee in lieu of sidewalk was always, was just contemplated as, a right.
Okay, and if we collect a fee in lieu of sidewalks, we don't necessarily have to spend the money there. We could put sidewalks somewhere else. I mean, that's our right to collect.
That's your right to do that
Right.
as well, yes.
Okay.
But we're making them sign an agreement to move
Yeah, I don't know
utilities if
about
we
that.
decide
If
to
it's-
do,
if it's legal.
Mr. Pizzo, maybe
Yeah.
you can help me with that.
Yeah, that's up to.
Help
that's
me
a
with
le-
my
that's a
understanding of
legal
that.
matter. I don't really.
I don't want to give away money, but I also,
The ordinance provides that every time there's a land development,
Right, that's what I thought.
the applicant is required to, at that point in time, put in curbs and sidewalks. So if something was built 5 years ago, if something was built 25 years ago, and the township didn't require it then, but circumstances change over time, needs change, plans change, and so the mechanism that at least gets the township the ability to take a fresh look and a fresh bite at the apple is you come in for to do land development on your property, you're required at that point in time to put the curbs and sidewalks in. So that's at least the mechanism that gets us having this conversation. Now, as to the fairness or equity of if they paid 5 years ago, 25 years ago, and we're going to make them do it again, the ordinance says that. It's certainly within the council's right to say, well, 5 years ago, the cost of the sidewalks was what it was, and it hasn't changed that much. 25 years ago, the cost of putting in 100 linear feet of sidewalk, that cost has changed significantly, and so maybe in one set of circumstances, we're going to follow the ordinance to the letter, and in the other, the equities are such that you collectively feel the fee that was paid in lieu of X number of years ago will suffice. So in terms of calculating the cost of what the cost of the sidewalks is, I believe is reflected by the ordinance and by what Mr. Kisselback is suggesting. We don't have in the ordinance, for instance, it's $7 a linear foot or $20 a linear foot. It's the cost of constructing the sidewalks as determined by the township engineer. So the engineer theoretically should be factoring in all of the costs that go into constructing a sidewalk on a particular piece of property, and not just how much it costs to lay out 100 linear feet of sidewalk.
I understand all that, but what I'm saying is, shouldn't we figure out in the beginning if there's going to be utilities and stuff there and charge the people in the beginning that are putting the development in, that they should be charged for that? Shouldn't we change the ordinance to have that added in there if there's going to be, how do we protect ourselves from that in the future so that we're...
That's certainly something to consider. At the time that the township was first approving the Horizon Center, I think the anticipation was that Restaurant Row was going to be Restaurant Row, and the other side was going to be a variety of office buildings that were going to be populated with a whole lot of people who were going to eventually walk across the street to avail themselves of the many fine eateries that we find along Horizon Boulevard. As time went on and the office market being what it is, the number of office buildings that I think everybody anticipated 20 years ago didn't come to pass, and therefore the need for sidewalks, I guess, never really materialized. I know at one point in time, if my memory serves, we did require the developer of the overall site to put sidewalks on the McDonald's side because they couldn't get them, as we're talking about, grades and the like, they couldn't get them on that side. So the thought was, we'll have them on the other side, and then there would be crosswalks. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but what was thought of the need might have been when the center was first approved by council, and what the need has evolved into over the course of the ultimate development of the Horizon Center. Maybe those needs have changed over the last number of years, and where we didn't make the developer take into consideration in 1988 or 2004 certain things, we are now making the developer take them into consideration in 2022. But ultimately it rests with the five of you. If three of you think that it's unfair to do something, it's unfair to do something.
As it stands now, they're willing to pay in lieu of sidewalks, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay, and then you're willing to negotiate that if we put sidewalks in the next 5 years, say, that you'll contribute to the cost of
I-
moving utilities.
I think if council's comfortable with it, certainly our
Which may
office.
not occur anymore.
Our office has had a number of development projects in Bensalem. We work with Mr. Pizzo regularly, and I'm comfortable making the representation that we'll come to an agreement with the balance of the fee eventually paid here in a manner that's acceptable to Mr. Pizzo as counsel for the township, if that's agreeable to.
And I understand that, but I'm looking at what do we do for the future to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Okay.
To make sure,
I understand, go ahead.
sure,
Yeah, go
I'm not interrupting you or anything?
ahead. No.
Okay. I think that it's something we should look at as an ordinance or something to make sure that in the future, we don't put ourselves in this position, because Mr. Kisselback's right. If you have to put them in and utilities have to be moved, it shouldn't be at the cost of the township. Maybe we should figure that out ahead of time with any developer that wants to waive and make sure that they pay for it up front so that we have it, and then the next developer can pay in lieu of again, but at least we have the major money to do the movement of whatever utilities or, you know, whether it be sewer, whether it be electric, whether it be whatever it might be. That's my whole,
No, that's an excellent point, and I believe that is typically what the township engineer does, is calculates the cost of constructing whatever the required sidewalks are on that particular piece of ground. So it's not just not $500 a tree sort of thing times 8 trees, it's what would be involved.
Right, and that was an excellent question and point, and the thing that hopefully Mr. Pizzo satisfied me with the answer was that it doesn't say in our ordinance it's per square foot or so many, you have to pay a certain amount for sidewalks per inch or per square foot. It's the cost of putting the sidewalks and curbs, which also could include things that Mr. Kisselback brought up. But again, it should be addressed at the development, so they're all good points.
I have another
Okay.
question for Phil.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Phil, Mr. McGinnis made a comment of how Chick-fil-A is such a good company working with the township. Have they gotten back in touch with you yet on the one on Street Road and what's going on there with the parking? Have we started working on that? Because last I heard, they hadn't gotten back in touch with us and.
Yes, Mr. Player, they have gotten back to us. We had a meeting at the end of February. They've developed a plan and have involved PennDOT as well. It involves 2 new access points on either end of the Street Road access and widening of the middle access, as well as a reconfiguration of the parking lot. It's certainly undergoing a process, and they're working with a traffic engineer as well that's working with Chick-fil-A and our office and PennDOT, and they made a submission conceptually today to PennDOT.
That's good. That's good to know, because there's a lot of problems with that place down there with getting traffic in and out and around, but I appreciate that. I just wanted to get an answer to that since Mr. McGinnis was so nice to tell us how good Chick-fil-A was working with the township.
Can I add something, I'll throw a wrench into the works just to keep it going? I have to agree with Councilman Polari, but I don't know that we haven't already taken into consideration the payment, and if not, it should be, where if in fact the company has already made a payment in fee in lieu of, and they're still subject to that, they could always pay the difference between what originally was paid in 1990 and now in 2022. The cost of that would be the difference between the two. They're going a step beyond and saying we're willing to pay whatever the calculation is of the engineer. So within the ordinance itself, it's already incorporated in that. It's just a matter of the interpretation of when you're doing that process. And then the other aspect would be, as we just brought up tonight, we have the ability to make sure that the cost being assessed is inclusive of the entire project. In this case, since this is the first one, we're approaching it in terms of if in fact it is done, then the company Chick-fil-A will come up with the cost of that particular thing, not having to hold that money into ESCO also.
Yeah.
Understood.
Okay, so
Yeah, and like you said, it could be the difference between the cost of putting a sidewalk in 15 years ago and the cost of putting a sidewalk in today could be.
that would be
could
calculated
more.
by the engineer
Yeah.
and the.
And let me say, I hear you loud and clear. And I'll coordinate with Mr. Pizzo on rectifying that and make sure that that's how our sidewalk calculations are done.
So you're asking for 17 and 18 a waiver?
17, 18, and since I'm doing this strangely, I'm going backwards again. The only other waiver we're requesting is from section 13 as
13,
well.
right, okay.
Yes, which is 201-106A26, and that pertains to grading the rear of the property, again, on the green space to the rear, and that's for the installation of a retaining wall and for the parking spaces. So
That's 13, you're saying?
that's correct. Those are our three waiver
And
requests.
are they, let me ask you, are those two blue areas there, is that a canopy? Is that the canopies? There's two large ones, and in the back is the building, is that correct?
That is correct,
And
yes.
so there would be an impact fee also addressed on that also, correct, Phil?
There should be,
There
Mr.
should
Kisselback,
be.
if the peak hour trips have changed.
Okay, if it's determined that there's an impact fee with the peak hour.
If that's
change,
deemed, we'll pay the
You'll pay
impact
in
fee,
lieu
of
of,
course.
right?
I would think
And-
there would have to be a change because that's why they're doing it, because the amount of cars have increased dramatically where it was initially thought it would be. Is that correct?
We're doing it to, I think, manage the conditions to make them, to improve the existing conditions, whether that relates to anticipated increase in volume. I'm not,
Yeah, no, it's to mitigate really what's, you know, the current conditions now.
Well, you did a pretty good job. I was in there the holidays, and I was surprised I didn't want to go in that line because it was crazily long.
I feel the same way you do.
But you went through, I was through there fast. I was surprised to tell you.
Yeah.
The chicken was still hot when I got it.
Yeah.
It was like, great.
Yeah, but I think it is better that you have two lanes, because sometimes, not that I eat a lot of Chick-fil-A, so I know this, but you have somebody out there even sometimes like saying, okay, you go, okay, you
Right.
go. And you have to count on the people to be civil, to let each other go, and it gets a little bit dangerous if
Yes.
someone gets aggressive, you know?
Yeah, and they, sorry, Chick-fil-A, yeah, they have their team members out there helping, you know, people in their cars navigate, but this will be delineated in.
Right, so you don't have to count on someone letting you in or you letting
Yes,
someone else in.
that's
correct.
But Mr. Kisselback, you're correct, because when we originally did this, nobody came close to figuring the amount of cars that would be going through there. So between that and the one that's now where on Street Road,
Yeah.
between the two of them, they have probably 5 times
Well-
the cars we expect in the beginning.
We will verify that, and that'll be.
An impact fee is gonna be
impact fee will
assessed,
be
it's just a
added
matter
and
of what it's
assessed,
gonna be.
And it'll be part of any developer's agreement.
Yeah, and it would be a will comply item, and everything else in both T&M and TPD's comments.
Okay, so everything else on the letter is a will comply
Correct.
except those three items?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, does anybody else on council have any other questions?
No, I think you guys covered it all.
Okay, Joe, do we need public comment on this, I guess? Okay. Is there anybody in the public that would like to come forward to speak for or against this Chick-fil-A changes? Okay, let me fight that. Okay, is there any other, does anybody want to make a motion to, if there's no other questions or concerns, anybody want to make a motion to accept preliminary and final revised land development with the waivers suggested, and also with Mr. Kisselback's points about the sidewalk and Mr. Polari's points about the sidewalk and,
I'll put it in form of a motion.
okay, go ahead.
All right, I'll put a form of motion that we accept the preliminary and final revised land development for Chick-fil-A at 3621 Horizon Boulevard. Tax map parcel is 02-001-018-026. The zoning classification is a PCD, professional. And we'll go in reference to the presentation this evening. T&M's letter dated February 8th, 2022. And if we go, all the zoning requirements have been met. If we go to the Section D, Chapter 201 Subdivision Land Development, the applicant will comply with everything that's requested by the township. They're requesting a waiver of 13, 17, and 18, and within that request, we've discussed for quite a bit of time relative to the impact fee, and that will be adjusted based on our conversation with the difference between if there was a payment in lieu of initially, and the difference between that, as well as that being actual payment to the township, as well as the applicant would be responsible for the cost of removing utilities and the cost of construction of the actual curbs and sidewalks, and that will be discussed and determined by the township engineer and our solicitor. Also, an impact fee will be assessed, and the applicant will be responsible for that, and payment will be made upon the issuance of the permits, and that would be the motion.
Very good.
Okay, Mr. Blair, Mr. Kisback.
As a first, and Mr. Blair, a second. Is there anything else that has to be added to that, Mr. Pizzo, do you think, or you're okay? Okay, so we're okay. There's a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a good
Thanks.
evening.
Yeah.
Even though our president goes there, I love it.
Can you have somebody fix the strobing light right outside of it on Horizon Boulevard? When I sit there, when I sit there after Irish dance, when I do my app order. Thank you.
I actually had a guy from Jersey cut me off of that Chick-Fil-A line, and I stopped and I just let him ahead of me. And he actually paid for my meal.
Did he?
Yeah, he paid for let him ahead of me, he paid for my sandwiches.
There's a city in California
And you-
that's determining their public nuisance.
I got two free chicken sandwiches. When I realized he paid for it, I said, I should have got waffle fries too, you know? But I got two free sandwiches out of it. Well, I let him cut in front of me, that's all it was, Jersey guy.
Honestly,
The customer bought
with
it for me.
anything going,
Okay, next on the agenda, 6 has been moved. Johnson's Development, if you didn't hear, has been tabled to a date definite of May 9th, our first meeting in May.
Debbie, do you want these back?
Okay, our next meeting, our next agenda item is number 7, consideration land development extension agreement with Lennar Waterside Phase 3. Do you have this, Phil, or Joe, do you have this?
Certainly. As council is asked to consider from time to time, the next two items are requested extensions of existing land development agreements. The first one, item number 7, is an extension agreement for Lennar for Phase 3 of the Waterside development. The developer is asking for an extension of the developer's agreement for an additional 1 year out to April 26 of 2023. If council is of a mind to grant the extension and approve the extension agreement, the administration recommends that you do so, subject to audit by the township engineer and the township finance department to make sure that sufficient escrow remains in place for the completion of the project.
Okay. Any questions from any of the council members in reference to this?
Absolutely. Where are we with the township getting the things done that are supposed to be done? We still have stuff in Phase 1 and Phase 2 that are not completed. There's street signs not put up, there's lights not put up, there's safety issues down there. We keep giving extensions now into the third phase so they can make more money, but they're not taking care of what needs to be done in Phase 1 and Phase 2. Where are we with that, Phil? Do you have an answer, or can we get an answer from that?
Let me first address that.
Okay.
Because you know how, and certainly Quentin knows, I have been on their backs. I've told them to go down there and everything to make sure they document, get it done. Now, we've been doing it 2 weeks, and I gave them and Ken instructions this past week that I want to hear nothing about getting it done. And I wouldn't feel bad if you didn't give them this for another couple of weeks till we really see what's going on.
Yeah, Mayor,
I
we've
would have no
talked-
problem with that whatsoever. Quentin.
Mayor, we've talked about this, and it's been a problem with Lennar since they took over, and you've said the same thing over and over. You got your staff doing it. It's just, can I finish?
No, I'm just telling Quentin's
I know
coming up. in
Quentin's
case you want to
coming
talk
up.
to Quentin, go ahead. Just letting you know Quentin's coming.
No, you're right.
And you've been doing a yeoman's job, so is Quentin, and and Ken Farrell, but, you know, it's coming to the point now where we keep bending over backwards for them, and they keep sticking it to the neighbors they're selling houses to, and I have a problem with that.
Quentin, tell them how we're not bending over backwards.
Oh, I know you're not,
And I'm
but
not.
I'm saying us as a council,
No.
not you.
Right, so there was a stop work order posted a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure if you knew that or not. And what we've been directed to is any issues, give them deadlines. If they don't meet those deadlines, we're going to be issuing another stop work order on the entire project for any of the construction.
So why are we approving an agreement to move forward if they can't even complete the things that they're supposed to be completed? We're given another year to do what?
Well, basically, the land development agreement is really for them to do any kind of construction on the project in phase 3. So if it's not extended, then there is no developer's agreement, and it's just stopped.
Understood, so maybe they need to fix 1 and 2 before they get the okay to go on 3. Maybe that's the only thing that's going to help them to say, yo, we better take care of the rest of our residents in Waterside, the things that they deserve and paid a lot of money for these houses for. And I know it's not your fault, it's not the mayor's fault, it's not Ken Farrell's fault, it's not Phil's fault. It's Lennar's fault, and this is the kind of company they are, and that bothers me, because these people pay good money for those houses. They deserve to have their streets right, their lights right, their signs on the street so they know where they're going, and we keep giving them extensions for their building. We should stop it and force them to do the work they need to do, then give them the extension.
Now, Mayor, do you think if we considered tabling this till April 25th, that would be time for your administration and Quentin to
Well,
deal
let
with
me
this?
ask Pizzo, we can do that,
Can we
right?
do that?
We can deny it also, can we not just deny it?
Well, I don't want to stop them completely.
You can do both. Again, and I understand the township's position regarding this particular developer. The only thing that I would remind you is that the developer agreement is our weapon against the developer. It's the agreement that we point to when they're not doing the things they're supposed to say, you're supposed to do this under the agreement, you're supposed to do that. So keeping the agreement alive and extending the agreement, you know, I think we all can acknowledge that Phase 3 isn't done. It isn't going to be done in the next 2 weeks. When you get to the point where the developer's agreement expires, the township is then left in the position of, it's now up to us to go out and complete the improvements at our cost, which is not necessarily where I don't think the township wants to be, at least not in terms of this phase of this project.
Yes, sir.
So were this an escrow release, as you have done many times in the past, you've withheld releasing escrow to send a message that X, Y, and Z need to be done under the developer's agreement before we'll release the escrow.
This is an extension agreement,
But
not
this is an extension of the developer's agreement. It would be my, I don't know if I'd say recommendation, but
again,
I think it's.
How do you send a message to them that either you complete Phase 1 and Phase 2, we're already giving you approvals for another year to work on Phase 3 and sell the houses? When it's all done that, they could walk away and say, it's on you now, and I don't want that to happen. Lennar has proved that time and time and time and time again. I want to protect us as a township so we don't have to put out that money. But I also want the people at Waterside to not have to worry about walking at night because they don't, or parking their cars and walking to their houses because they have no lights. And I know our people are doing their job hand over fist. It's just Lennar's not, they don't do the job.
Well, I'm inclined, before you even ask him, because I'm inclined to deny it, period.
Okay, so Joe, Mr. Pizzo, from a legal standpoint, or from the township's point of view of controlling what has to be done and what township money has to be done, are we better off tabling this to we could always deny it in the future, but we table this to a date certain and then give them a chance the township to lean on them to get this stuff done? Or if we deny it outright now, then we're stuck finishing Phase 3, or we have no
It
rules?
has nothing to do with it.
Well, that's what he just said.
That's not what I heard.
Well, that's what I heard. I just heard him
Yeah,
say
I'd
it.
like to better understand the recourse if we deny.
That's what he just said.
Well, again, as to the agreement, if your inclination is not to grant the extension of the land development agreement for Phase 3 this evening, my suggestion would be that you table it. and revisit the question at your next meeting or whatever date in the future you choose to revisit it. And hopefully Lennar will have done whatever it is that they need to do for you to extend the agreement. If your inclination is to just simply not extend the agreement any further, then, we'll have to, at the administration, circle the wagons to figure out what's going to happen vis-a-vis this particular land development. But again, they're still going to be building houses. They have the right to continue to build houses unless, as Quentin said, we're issuing stop work orders under building permits. The extension agreement covers the public improvements, not necessarily the houses. So, but we'll make whatever work, whatever all of you collectively want us to do.
So are you recommending that we table this to a date certain in the future would be a better option, or just to deny it? Would be-
If I were to give you a hierarchy of what would probably be in the township's best interests.
Before you answer that, let me ask a point, because I want to make sure that we're on cue on this one. What would have more teeth to Lennar in terms of the township's action and where we are, and what would have a better response from them to get the work done ASAP? An extension or a denial? And then you can answer the question from there. Please answer that first.
I think what gets their attention first and foremost is that the township not release escrow when they ask, because that's
Well, we're
putting
not at
money
that
back
point.
in their pockets.
So we're not at
The
that
second is the course of conduct that the mayor and Quentin were just describing, which is the issuance of stop work orders and other activity vis-a-vis their building permits. If they're not out there swinging hammers and shovels, they're not completing houses and going to closings.
So isn't this closer to doing exactly what we're doing in the administration than just tabling it? I mean, I would prefer just deny it and let's deal with it and then come to the table with them, and then they can respond if they would like and say, okay, we're putting a new application
Can
for an
I
extension.
give a suggestion?
Sure.
Since we deal with this and
Yeah, sure.
it's murderous.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Kissenback. I want to put as much pressure as we can on them.
Okay,
The right thing.
why don't you give us an opportunity to table it, to come back to you guys and say, yeah, we're making headway, no, we're not. You can always deny it totally if you want later.
On April 25th.
April
Okay.
25th.
Okay.
Is a month, is April 25th enough time for you to decide whether they're cooperating with you?
Well, that's a month. If
Yes.
not, we come back at it and we.
And we'll deny
can
it then.
Bring it back,
It's a
right?
date
You
And
can-
then, okay, let me
Are
ask
you
you,
okay with that?
well, I gotta ask you a question then. If we deny it, what would preclude them from putting another application for a land extension when we come back to the next meeting?
Well, nothing. If you table it, they'll automatically come back.
Right, exactly, but if we deny it, then they got the idea
Yeah,
that
but
we're
if you
not gonna.
table it, I'm
All right.
not fighting with you. If you table it, next time you come back, you can just say no.
Right.
If you want to. I'm
Quentin,
just giving you,
Do we have any?
however you want to do it, I'm good.
Do they have a stop work order right now?
No. We moved the stop work order about 2 weeks ago, I believe, from what I remember.
And is that because they completed some of the things that we had requested them to do?
Right. So there's items for E&S that we issued the stop work order with DEP and the Biloxi County Conservation District. We had a meeting out there, and that's why we had posted the stop work order. So there's other issues that are on site that were not emergencies. After discussing with the mayor and Ken Farrell last week, we're going to probably give them daily reports now on items that they need to do right away. For instance, on Friday.
To Lennar.
So for instance, on Friday when we were there's a lot of mud on the streets, which they have a sweeper that comes in once a week. Our feeling is we're gonna require a sweeper to come in 3 times a week, as well as power washing the roads where there was an accumulation of sediment on that street.
Because of the construction they're doing, it's
Correct.
going over into the
Because
residential
one of the
area.
machines was doing the utility installations, was actually tracking mud from the dirt area across of a stone entrance, but that got encased with mud and they continued to work. So that's why the mud became on the roadway itself, which was not being able to get cleaned by the sweeper itself. So that's why we're gonna.
We can let them
the
know.
memo went out to them today. If it didn't go out there, it was prepared this afternoon from our Friday visit as well as our Monday morning visit. So I'm not sure if it was emailed out to them this afternoon. If it's not, it would be first thing in the morning.
And if
That'll
they-
give them 2 days to do that work.
And if they don't do what you tell them to do, you'll do a
Then
stop
another
work
stop
order.
work order will be posted again until that work's completed, and that will be an entire project shutdown for everybody to go home until that work's done.
That and stop permits.
Right, you can stop permits.
So we're not
there.
going to give new permits until we get other things completed then? Can we do that?
We can stop permits if they're
Yeah,
not
you-
doing something right, yes.
Yeah. So-
Until they complete the things in phase 1 and phase
Right.
2, we can.
Right. That's
can
what I
do
was
that.
just gonna say. You gotta put a stop to this. Make them finish 1 and 2. Those developments, they already got paid for the houses. Those people are living with stuff that's wrong, that they shouldn't have to for the amount of money they paid for those houses.
I agree with you.
Put a stop work order until they get phase 1 and phase 2 completed done. It's not fair to the residents down there that they have to keep putting up with this. I mean, you guys are doing yeoman's work, Mayor. Your crew does a fantastic job.
Yeah, staying on top
You know,
of them.
but we can't keep giving them leeway. Oh, okay, we'll let phase 1. Phase 1 was done how many years ago? 3 years ago? 4 years
years,
ago? And they
yes.
still haven't finished it. And phase 2 now, they have things that are not done. If we don't start playing hardball with them and make them do it, they just don't care. I mean,
But putting stop orders in is separate from this extension, right?
Correct, totally
But
separate.
it,
Totally
but it's a way to,
It catches their eye.
Yeah.
it's
Right.
more, it hits them more in the pocket than
Correct.
this
Mr.
person
Kisselback, I
would.
would be okay with
I'm putting it on the
extending it.
floor.
to-
Well, I'm gonna put it on the floor, and if it votes, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. But I'm putting a motion on the floor that we deny this extension agreement for Lennar as presented. That's my motion. So if it's second, fine. If it's not, it's up to you guys. You know, and Larry hit it right on, everything you said.
Well, I think,
It's about
I
time.
agree with Mr. Player too, and I agree with you, but I think the better tactic to me is to, as the mayor's asking for, is to give them to the 25th and put the pressure on them saying,
Well, I'm asking
Okay, you
if that was agreeable. You guys do it.
You
Okay.
didn't get a
It's up to
second
you.
to the motion,
I'm
so
asking.
another motion should be in order.
okay, does anybody want to make there's no second, is there another motion that someone wants to make?
Can we make a motion to table item number 7, consideration of land development extension agreement with Lennar MPA LLC, location Waterside Phase 3, tax parcel 2-65-22-15, until our April 25th, 2022
To a
meeting.
date certain of April 25th. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
I vote aye.
Aye, okay. And Quentin or Mayor, let them know that they were like inches from this being just outright denied, okay? So, and if they don't get their act together by April 25th, it's going to be.
Well, hopefully they'll be here. To address this.
Okay, all right, number 8 on the agenda, consideration of land development extension agreement with VIP Wireless Holdings LLC. Do you have this one, Mr. Pizzo?
Yes.
Are you going to say it's standard, these land development agreements?
This would be the land development extension agreement for VIP Wireless Holdings for their property at 1411 Ford Road. They're requesting that it be extended to June 30, 2022. Again, if council is of a mind to grant this particular request, it's the administration's recommendation that you do so subject to audit of the escrows by the Township Finance Department and Township Engineer to make sure that sufficient funds remain in order for the public improvements to be fully completed.
Okay, is there any questions in reference to this land development extension?
Is this related to the paving again? What's the extension for? What are they?
Yes, the remaining other punch list items, I think was paving and a light issue, has still not been addressed as far as we know. so we
Because of
haven't
the
been called
weather.
out, I'm assuming.
I remember we talked about this before. Thank you.
Right.
Do you think it can be done by the 30th of June?
I'll have to reach out to the owner and find out what the status is. I wasn't the one that did the punch list, so I'm not sure, but I believe it's only a couple of days worth of work for each item. So you figure a month should be fine in April to get it done. I'm not sure what the extension's gonna be for.
I hope we won't be getting snow squales in May and June, right?
They're getting 90 days, so they should be able
They
to
should
get
be
it
able
done
to
in
get it
90
done.
days, right? Okay.
We'll remind the developer.
Okay,
It's gotta get done.
okay, if there's no other questions, is there a motion? They're asking for the extensions to June 30th, 2022. Is there a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to approve agenda item 8, consideration of land development extension agreement with VIP Wireless Holdings LLC, 1411 Ford Road, tax parcel 2-45-31-1, and to extend to the time of June 30th, 2022.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay. Okay, number 9 on the agenda, consideration of reduced permit fee regarding the annual fire inspection fees for Bensalem Township schools. Do you have this, Mr. Pizzo?
I would be happy to. This is as council gets from time to time, requests for a reduction in the township's fee schedules for certain governmental entities or nonprofits. In this case, the request is from the Bensalem Township School District. It's for a 50% reduction of the fire inspection fees for all of the district's various buildings, including the schools, the district office, and the maintenance facilities. In several cases, the fees being waived would also include hazard registrations, and those would be for the bus garage, the Schaefer School, Bensalem High School, the field house, and the natatorium.
Now, can we do 9 and 10 as one thing, or they're separate items?
No, you certainly could. The fee request waiver for item 10 is, in this case, for a project at the high school. The district is undertaking veneer replacement. Please don't ask me to explain what that is. But nonetheless, they have applied for the necessary permits applicable to the job, and the district has calculated or the township has calculated the reduction. I believe the permit fee sheet, as I'm looking at it, I think the total is...
Should be 572150, right?
Yeah, has been miscalculated.
Ms. Champion just changed it.
And should be 5,721.50. So, again, these are standard requests that you receive from the school district. The fire inspection and hazardous fee registrations are annual, and the veneer replacement project is a specific project for the high school.
Okay, so we'll do them item 9 and 10 since they're separate sheets in the press. Okay, any questions on number 9? If not, is there a motion to accept number 9, the reduced permit fee for the fire inspection fees for Bensalem School District?
I'll make a motion, we approve as presented.
Okay, is there a second? Second, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay. And then number 10, which Mr. Pizzo covered, the reduction would be 50%, which is actually, it was written incorrectly, added incorrectly, but it's $5,721.50 would be 50% of the fees. For consideration of reduction of permit fees for Bensalem School District, location of reported fees, Bensalem High School, 4319 Unionville Road. If there's no questions, does anybody want to put a motion that we approve this reduction also?
I'll make a motion on item number 10 as stated by Mr. Knowles,
Okay.
including the updated calculation.
Okay, at 50%, which is $5,721.50, as corrected by Ms. Champion. Okay, so is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Okay, 10's done. Number 11, consideration and signing agreements for Bensalem MZL LLC, 1749 Street Road. Do you have this, Mr. Pizzo, or?
I do. Actually, the agreements are for tax parcel 2-43-305. They, however, in one case will be with Bensalem MZL. In the other case, they'll be with J.P. Morgan Chase Bank. And I'll explain why in just a second. Okay. The Land Development Improvements Agreement is the land development agreement. This is what we were talking about at length, extending for VIP and for Lennar. So this would be for the J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, which would be constructed and was previously approved to be constructed on the former Kmart property, soon to be the Amazon Prime property, This is the bank that will be replacing the Krispy Kreme donut shop.
Okay.
So this is the land development agreement. The escrows have been calculated and approved by the township engineer. The agreement has been prepared by my office, has been signed by the developer. All of the necessary monies have been received by the developer, and if council is of a mind to approve the agreement, it is a form for you to do so. The other agreement, which is the Stormwater Best Management Practices Agreement, covers the same piece of property. This, however, is with the property owner, Bensalem MZL, whereas the JP Morgan one is with the bank that's building the building.
Okay.
So this is the stormwater agreement that covers the property, runs with the land. For the new members of council, since this is the first time you're being asked to consider it, what this does is it's a covenant that runs with the land. It gets recorded. It gives the township the right to enter onto the property to essentially inspect and, where necessary, make improvements or maintenance to the stormwater facilities if the property owner isn't doing so. So it first and foremost puts the obligation on the property owner to maintain the stormwater facilities in the manner described in the agreement. Should they fail to do so, it then gives the township the right to go onto the property to do it and to assess the cost back to the property owner. So again, both agreements have been signed by the respective developers. They are in a form acceptable for your consideration and approval this evening.
Okay, so you reviewed these and these are acceptable?
Yes.
Sir, okay. Okay, is there any other questions for Mr. Pizzo in reference to this, or does anybody want to put up, this is an approved project, that this is a standard we have to do?
We'll put
So-
a forward motion, we accept it as presented.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, the first and the second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, public comment, is there anybody here that would like to make public comment? Well,
How you doing today? Thanks for having me.
okay, you got North Catholic shirt, right?
Yeah.
The mayor's alma mater. What
You
year
want me to send you these pictures?
did you go to North Catholic? Did you go to North Catholic?
Huh?
Did you attend North Catholic?
Yeah, 88.
Okay, yeah, it's very straightforward.
I live in on Salford Court,
What's your address, I'm sorry?
Salford Court.
Salford Court. Calling regarding the playground that sits behind it, in the middle there. There was a basketball court taken out a few years ago, and it was supposed to be backfilled or some kind of grading to go on.
Salford Court. Okay, it's in the clusters, yeah.
Clusters or
Yeah, the
block
Yeah, it's
clusters.
in the clusters. Is that near the tennis court, or is that on the other side?
It's on the other side.
On Gloucester, near Gloucester? like?
No, Gloucester's the other side. The tennis
Okay.
courts are on the other
95
side
side.
of.
Yeah, is that where the basketball court is too?
No, it's behind Salford Court.
Oh, it is beyond.
Where you go
Salford.
down Trace, you make a right on Taunton.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
right in there. It's a small playground.
Okay.
It's only got one little slide and stuff for little kids.
But is it a township playground?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So after the basketball courts were taken out, it's just like a big gully now. It fills up with leaves, the little stick balls. It's a haven for mosquitoes in the summertime. You can't sit out on your back deck without, everything getting bit all around you. And the kids can't even play on there because of all the mud that's just saturated around it. Now, last year when your guys were cutting the grass out there, they actually got stuck. Had to have someone come out and tell them that's how saturated this land gets. And if you look on the walkway on these pictures, you'll see all the mud that slides down and prevents people from walking through it.
Okay,
It's actually a safety issue as well with all that mud
Well,
sliding
what we
down.
can do is if you give Debbie your contact information, and Quentin, you have something on this?
Yeah, we've
Okay.
been working on that.
Oh, you've been working on it?
Yeah, I was going to say, a couple of weeks ago, there were some guys out there and they marked it up. That was
Okay,
you?
let's get a
Okay.
report about.
So I don't
what
know
we're-
if they're coming to do something
Okay,
with
let's find
that.
out what
Okay.
we're doing, if we're aware of it.
So,
Nobody gives us credit.
I'm not sure exactly when the basketball court was removed, but we had met out there with Chuck McMullen from Parks and Rec.
Okay, so we're on top of this.
I'm Jim McMullen.
So what,
No relation.
so what the game plan is, we have a project starting up right now where we're gonna put an accessible route in the front off the sidewalk, because one of the issues why it's not been really being used. The area that's low where the basketball court was, that's gonna be regraded. There's gonna be a minor improvement to the actual, play equipment.
Okay.
Just for like an edge.
Are
And
they
then we're
going to
gonna
build like a
grade.
wall there in front? where it slopes down? Because there's a big tree stump there.
That's gonna be, the stump's gonna be removed, and there's gonna be a handicap accessible route to get up
Oh,
to,
okay.
to a pad on the top where there's the bench now. So it'll
Right.
be a bench and then sitting there for a wheelchair if there's anybody accessible that needs to
Okay,
be
because
watching.
I saw, I know on the farther left-hand side as you're looking at it, there's like a down, like a drain,
Ditch.
like a ditch
Right.
area that's all mudded out.
Right.
So that's a lot of where that.
Right, so the whole area is gonna be regraded. If you
Okay.
look, you'll see paint spots. We did a grid survey so we can see where everything is. So that's all been redesigned.
Okay.
We just have another location we're working for the department on. So as soon as that's, designed, after we survey that, then we'll go out to bid for that project, which is hopefully to be this summer.
Awesome. That's
Okay,
all I
and,
need.
and Mr. Morello, if you give Debbie your contact information,
Okay.
then we can keep you abreast of, you know, when it's being completed and when it's gonna be
Sure.
done.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, yes,
Okay, so we have it, okay.
yes.
Okay.
I appreciate it very much.
Healthy guys, hey.
You didn't know, you got two guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why it took,
4100 South and 4106.
How about that?
Yeah, he was in the last year.
Hey, guys.
It's Jim McMullen, 4106 South Dakota.
We have it.
South, SALFORD. Phone number 215-435-1609. Email,
well, it's in the process of being so.
JMAC1127@verizon.com.
Yeah, we have it if you emailed us. I didn't know whether, okay? All right, that's great. Okay, we're in the process of taking care of that. It's good. Is anybody else who would like to come forward for public comment?
Hey, good evening, council. Joe Conley, 568 Bristol Pike. I'm here for the dirt pile, when it's going to be removed off my property.
Yeah, we discussed it last week.
Right,
Mr.
right.
Blair brought it up.
I watched I appreciate you mentioning that, Mr. Blair. I'd like to get a date when it's going to be removed.
Okay, let's get an update from Quentin, because that's,
Okay.
I wanted out of there yesterday.
I hear you, Mr.
Yeah,
Knowles.
Yeah, yeah. What, Quentin, how are we doing with that? I mean, you just
So
gotta get
I
out of
reached
there.
out to our Falls Township location, which I haven't heard back last week. So I try to reach out to them once a week if I don't hear anything. Last thing they wanted was some certifications, which we sent that we had on file at the township. Last thing they told us verbally was that they were going to get that information and take a look, but they have not responded back yet. We do have another possible location within Bensalem, which we haven't got confirmation on that yet, but they might need additional soils, so we might be able to take some dirt at that location as well.
Is it our responsibility to find a spot?
As of right now, we're trying to find locations because the property owner is not, so we're trying to get our stuff taken care of so we're not to have this delay. But we're having problems finding locations that need that much soil that needs to come out of there.
At this point, we have to put the pressure on these guys. If they're not going to take the dirt, because this place up
Yeah.
there has been like, what, a month and a half now?
Exactly.
Well, good. If they're not going to do it, then let's find another
Well,
place
that's
to
where we
move.
started. We came across somebody Thursday, which actually.
Let
has
Mr.
issues.
Conley get his property back to, not have to worry about the water flow coming off that dirt pile. It's got to be done. So what is our goal? A month, 2 weeks? We got to start.
Yeah, I mean, within
timeline.
Bensalem, I don't really get out. I know the conservation helped us out because they know we're trying to get rid of it as well. They're the ones that gave us the falls contact. So we do have people that know we're trying to get rid of the soil. It's just nobody needs it in this location, so.
We still have
Is
Mr. Popley's money?
Is it topsoil or is it dirt?
It's good soil. I mean, I wouldn't consider it like clayish or fill, but it's definitely not topsoil. It's not clean, sifted topsoil, so.
So are we charging Mr. Popley then for all of this work we're doing?
Oh, of our time?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Pizzo, you want to comment on that?
No, other than, obviously, as was said earlier, it's the property owner's responsibility. The property owner has opted not to do anything, so we've taken it on to ourselves to do it. We are charging back to the developer, or to the property owner rather, the township's costs. And again, the removal of the dirt is regulated by the County Conservation District and the DEP.
Okay.
The placement of the soil somewhere else is regulated by the Conservation District and the DEP. So it's, we wish it were as easy as going in there with a dump truck and a couple of shovels and getting it out of there, but again, it has to go somewhere, and, you know, we more than anyone are obligated to comply with what the government regulations are from DEP and the Conservation District for where that soil can go and in what quantities.
Okay, well, we're,
Quentin,
looks like they're working towards
Mr.
getting it
Knowles,
out.
this is his.
Quentin, maybe we could put it out
That's his
to
stormwater
all the
management.
companies and first come, first serve. You know, whoever's going to do it, let's not go to one person and have them not do it and then another. Let's put it out to everybody. Who first person that comes through and can get that dirt out of there should be who we give it to, not trying to, you know, work with people if they're not going to do it.
Well, we do have a hauler lined up. This is
Right.
pretty much the location to take to.
So what I'm saying is maybe we look at 4 or 5 locations if they're out there, and whoever says, yes, we got it, here's, you know, do it, let's get it done. So this way, we don't have to wait a month and then go to the next person, wait a month, go to the next person, wait a month. If it's out to all of them, the first come, first serve, whoever comes, says, we're ready for it, send it to our location.
Because people do
here it
need
is.
fill sometimes, right, for the side of highways and stuff like that for different projects, don't they?
Yeah, first person we contacted was PennDOT
Yeah.
regarding the Route 1. They're actually trying to get rid of soil.
Okay.
All the land development jobs we have right now are pretty much almost complete, so they're not looking for any new fill. We do have a couple that are starting up, but at this point, they're not telling us that they need material.
Okay, is there something you wanted to present?
Yeah, I was just wondering, this is his stormwater management plan. Is that normal for a stormwater management plan, something like that? Not showing you where it is on the
We're not
property?
engineers, we get to show it to him, I don't know whose plan is that.
Detail? Where is it on the property, his pit?
That's on the southern side, right near his parking lot.
Well, by my tax partial, which I pay taxes on, the tax partial map, his pit is actually on my property.
Again, Joe, we're not,
I
that's a
understand
county
that.
issue,
I
so
know
keep
that,
bringing it up.
Mr. Player, I understand that, but I hired 13 land surveyors.
Again,
I know,
Joe, it's
Joe,
not
that's
our
another
issue.
I know,
thing,
but
we
I'm trying
can't-
to sell the property.
It's not
That's a
our
county
issue.
issue.
I
That's a
understand
county
that.
issue.
It's not
I
our
understand
issue.
that, Mr. Clary, but when you hire 13 land surveyors and they all mark your property wrong, and Gilmore Associates, they did something with the deeds. When they subdivided the property at the end of Lucia Drive-In, they subdivided the property. And I have it
Mr.
right
Conley,
here.
Joe, there's
Mr.
nothing
Conley.
we can
I
do about
understand that,
that.
but I just want to let you guys know.
We
That's
know.
all.
We know it
We hear
already,
it
you
every
told
month
us.
from
But I'm
you.
just telling you, Gilmore
hear it every month from
subdivided
you.
the property here, and he never measured to one side.
Joe, we
And
hear
Mr.
it,
Conley.
Joe.
Okay, well, then you need to
I
go to
understand.
court or go to the
I
county.
understand, but
Mr. Conley did go to the county. I was going to ask you what your experience was there because I saw that you were at a meeting.
I'm getting railroaded. I'm really trying to get out. I'm really trying to sell my property. I'm trying to call a real estate agent to sell it. But they say we cannot sell it with a tax map line running through the building of
I
your neighbor's building.
understand that.
So they
I'm
say you got
asking-
to get an attorney.
Okay,
So
but you
far, I
went to
spent-
county?
I spent $250,000 so far.
No, I've been
$250,000. I
following you
spent
for
$250,000.
years. I'm aware.
And you know what the problem is? I'm dealing with a lot of professional liars. Is
But
what I'm
that's
dealing
not-
with.
that's
Okay, well,
not
Joe,
our
there's nothing,
understand
we
that,
can't do
Larry.
that, there's nothing we can do about
But the
that.
problem is, I know you can't, but you should have done something back when Bob Ollender built the
We
illegal
weren't-
addition
there
in
was-
'84.
There was no council then, Joe. It was
yeah, I know.
supervisors. The supervisors did us. Joe, you're
Joe,
blaming us
I
for
ain't
something
blamed
that
you.
was done.
Yeah,
But they moved all the monuments around. I want to know
Joe,
who moved the
it's-
monuments.
again-
Okay, Joe, it's nothing to do with us, okay?
Nothing to do with you guys?
I understand it's frustrating, there's nothing, you know, you have to get an attorney, it's
Another
unfortunate.
question. Is there any other drive-through in America that people drive their car and also people walk through with the cars? That's how Mr. Poppy's drive-through is.
We even walk
I
through
never
the
seen a
car.
drive-through like that. In other words, they get out of the car and they walk to the back of the car and that's the drive-through lane. And the people are like, they're beeping, you know, because the cars are all the way out to the road. He never did a traffic study. Like I said, and then with that, he put blacktop 25 inches in front of his building. And all the water's running through my property, 100% of his water. That is your problem. You know,
okay, well-
Mr. Quinton could come out, I could show him the ruts. I got ruts that are this deep right now. I'm getting 100%. Thank God the township hasn't been down fining me like they've been doing like the last 7 years. I get home after a hard day's work. I'm raising three kids.
We heard about that already,
I know
Joe.
that, but I want to make
Yeah.
sure, you know, that you really.
Well, we heard about it the last 6 times we were
How
here.
would you feel though when you come home on a hard
It
day's
doesn't
work,
matter how I feel.
And you got $7,000 worth of bogus fines.
And you didn't
from
pay any
Christine
of it,
Savage.
did you pay any of it? Did you pay anything?
Mr. Knowles, I was not going to
No, you
pay
paid
it.
it.
I'll tell
A
you
lot of
right
people,
now,
Joe,
I would fight
Joe, a lot of people get notices that they're gonna be fined $1,000 a day, and normally it's something that has to be taken care of and addressed. It was addressed, you weren't fined, so it doesn't.
Well, I was fined. I did pay a lot of fines through the years, Mr. Knowles. A lot of fines I paid.
Okay.
And I
Is
feel
there
like
anything
the
else new?
township
Joe, is there anything else new? 'Cause I have-
Anything new? Well, this
Yeah.
here, this copy
No, that's
here-
not new. That's not new, okay?
This is
That's
not
a
new.
county.
No, this is something different.
That's a county thing, okay?
Well, this is a copy of the Lafayette Gardens Apartments, right here.
That doesn't matter. That's not.
It doesn't matter? Nothing matters.
Well, it
Nothing
doesn't matter.
matters.
It's
All
not.
that matters, I'm
it's not
paying
the
somebody's
business.
property tax.
Joe, you have a legal right to get an attorney.
I can't get an
and
attorney.
go to the county.
I cannot find one.
Well,
I swear to God, I called 100 of them.
okay. Well, I
As
don't
soon
know.
as they
what-
find out that I'm going against Bensalem Township,
You're not going against us.
Well,
You're not going against. You're going against the county.
land surveyors.
It's the county.
Can I ask you a question?
County,
Let me ask you a question. What did the county tell you when you went up there?
to get an attorney. I had to get an attorney.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Okay, so they're telling you there's nothing they can do about it, get an attorney and push it that
I
way.
understand.
So why aren't you at their
Mr.
commissioners meeting, because they're the ones that have to do what you want?
I've called over 150 attorneys.
Joe, it doesn't matter. I'm just-
150 of them, attorneys.
Okay. Well, there must be something about your cases they don't want to take. I don't know,
Must be
Joe.
something about my case. It's called connections.
Okay. So 150 attorneys. Everybody.
Hey, 250,000, I can show you canceled checks. 13 land surveyors.
Okay.
Mr. Knowles, if your deed says 228 feet in the back, okay?
Yeah.
More or less. Could it be more or less 50 feet?
Hey, Joe.
Joe,
Let me ask you a question. Where is, when you bought the property,
Uh-huh.
you had a title
I just filed
search
a
done.
claim for first fidelity. I just filed an owner's claim.
So-
Okay, there
And
you
they,
go.
So
they,
that's
they
what-
denied it.
But that's where your problem is with them.
I never met so much corruption in my entire life.
Well, it's not, Joe. We're not corrupting against you. It's nothing
Well,
to do with
how's
us.
he gonna sign on my property?
It's not your property.
Oh,
Legally,
it
it's
is
not
my
your-
property.
Well, you claim it is, but it's not.
By my tax map.
Then go to court and prove it. It's not on there.
Wait, for me to go
Legally,
to
it's not
court
your
to prove
property.
it?
Right now, it's not your
Well,
property.
for me to go to court to prove it, I have to get an attorney and a land surveyor.
Well, you can represent yourself if you want, but I wouldn't advise it, but you can do it.
It's better to
Okay?
get an attorney, but you gotta get one that's honest.
Okay, well, that's.
I had one attorney, Michael Kerner.
Okay, there's nothing we
When I
can.
went into court,
Joe,
I'm just gonna tell you a story here.
I hope it works
Yeah,
I was
out.
sitting in front of the judge.
We've heard your
I
story.
know, but I was sitting in front of the judge,
We've
waiting to
heard
hear
your
the,
stories. Hang
I was
together.
getting ready to hear the court.
Thank
Well, Michael Kerner, attorney Michael Kerner.
Okay, Joe, we're gonna close public comment, okay? We give you ample time to express yourself.
But that's
I'm
okay,
sorry,
because
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put a big sign in front of my house at
You already-
Bensalem Township, still
Well, you
my
already
land.
did that, you already did that.
I'm
You
gonna
took
do
an
it
ad in
again.
the paper to,
And maybe
okay,
you'll take me to court.
that's fine. I would never do that, Joe. I'm not gonna sue you.
Stantec.
Okay.
Stantec and Gilmore. They are two
Joe,
dishonest
do it.
land
okay, we wish you,
surveyors.
Then sue them.
I hope they see
then
this.
take them to court.
No, I hope they take me to court, because I'm
Okay,
called
okay.
dishonest
All right.
and corrupt.
All right, thanks, Joe. Thanks for coming out. All right? Okay.
Next meeting.
Okay. All right, is there any other business that we have? Phil, do you have any other business?
No, sir.
Deb, any other business? Okay, Mr. Pizzo, do you have anything else to add?
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, thanks for taking care of that playground, by the way, jumping right on top of that.
Working,
No, well,
and that bothers me. No,
well, no,
seriously, I'm not
he's
on
getting it.
mic and
I
don't
understand, but
care.
you're getting it done.
You
That's
guys have to understand that we can't do things when somebody,
I understand.
that gentleman emailed us, it was taken care of, and it's something that can't be done.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
well, we updated them,
And
but
I
that's
just
all.
want to say, I'm worn out tonight. We can't help Joe. I wish there was something I could do personally.
I wish we could too. He's
To
a nice
help the
guy, but
man.
it's unfortunate.
I don't know what else to do. This
Mayor,
has been going on.
you guys bend over backwards getting things done for this township.
Going on for years.
There's not a complaint with that. I mean.
You know, I
every one
went
of your
down there,
departments-
myself and looked, he put this junk up on top of the pile. I guess he thinks it's his land. I don't know if it is or if it ain't. He put
Yeah,
all these junk
well,
cars up there.
That is what it is. What are
As
you
you
gonna do?
speak, you go down, you can see them.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
And we're letting it go because we don't know who's who anymore.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, Michelle, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, congratulations to the award recipients tonight, and thank you for your service to our community and continuing to step up. I'd also like to recognize Trooper Mack and Siska, praying for their families and law enforcement family. That was a very tragic loss, and they are in my thoughts and prayers.
Okay, thank you. And that's the troopers that got killed on 95, unfortunately. Ms. Champion, do you have anything to say?
I ditto, Michelle. It's very trying times for all these families and people, and not much more. Thank you to everybody who came out tonight to support the awardees, and quite amazing. These people who step up and do what others don't, and put their lives on the line every day. So thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kisselback, do you have anything to add?
Just briefly, I'm going to reiterate what our two councilwomen just said relative to our troopers. It's a tragedy when anyone's life is taken in their duty, especially serving the public, as our police officers, state troopers do. Those in the military, the same thing, and I think, unfortunately, they are absolutely taken for granted and not given the honors due to them. It was especially rewarding to see that there were awards this evening given out for citizens on their own time, protecting others' lives, citizens of Bensalem Township, and putting their lives in peril. And I'd like to give a special thanks to our police department for everything they do for us. And that's it.
Yeah,
Public Safety Department.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Mr. Polari, do you have anything to add?
Mr. Mayor, is there any way we can get the list of the 100 things that your department workers do and do right and make right? When the one comes up that's like a nightmare, people should know about the other 100 that the departments are doing and getting done. Our police department, our public works, so, it's just not unbelievable. All the good stuff that you do is going to the side.
It's not just, we have a team. There's a team.
Yep.
And you're included in a team, all of the council. We make it work. And it just gets frustrating sometimes, and that's all.
Well, that's why I'd like to
That's
see-
our job, to get frustrated.
But I'd like to see that list so everybody knows in
Yes.
Bensalem the good things that all our department heads do, that you do, to make sure that they get done what they need to get done, because Bensalem is one of the best places that anybody could want to live, and that's the reason why. It's
Well,
because of the
thanks,
hard
Joe,
work.
but we're doing it as a team, all of us, and we expect our department heads to do their job, and anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't shut it off.
Ditto on
Okay.
everything else, thank you.
Okay. Yes, and I agree with Mr. Polari's comments that, and the mayor's comments, and as council people, and Ms. Benitez and Ms. Champion are experiencing it now too. We get a lot of calls from people who have situations going on that need to be handled, and in 99 out of 100 of the cases, we report them to the administration, we report them to the proper departments, and they get handled in a proper way. So we do appreciate all the hard work that the mayor and his staff do. I would also like to reiterate what Ms. Benitez had said in reference to the state troopers that were killed, one in his late 20s and one in his early 30s, young children and a pregnant wife, and all police, every time they go out to serve the community, you don't know whether they're coming back, okay? And they do that selfless service, and it was great having an opportunity to honor the people that in our department who have gone above and provide that service to our community, and have some positive things about have a police department in Bensalem that we can be proud of. With that, is there a motion to close?
So moved.
So moved? Okay, and our next meeting is April the 11th, scheduled for April the 11th. Thank you.